All right. All right. Good morning, Rabbi Osai. Today's daf is Chaf Ches. We are picking up at the Mishnah on 28th. We're picking up at the Mishnah on 27b. A lot to do today. A beautiful daf ahead of us. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Ayal and Sarah Steinberg in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Ayal's mother. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, her neshama will have an aliyah and the family a nechama. Amen. Well, so let's begin. Says the Mishnah Chav Zayin on base 27b. Hashochet es hazevach lizrok damo b'chutz. Well, it's an interesting case. Someone goes ahead and shechts a carbon with the intention of sprinkling the blood outside of the Beis Hamikdash. O miktas damo b'chutz, or some of the blood outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Lahaktir emurav b'chutz, to go ahead and offer up the limbs outside of the Beis Hamikdash. O miktas emurav b'chutz, or some of the limbs outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Le'echal b'sara b'chutz, or to eat the meat, the sacrificial meat outside of the Beis Hamikdash, o kizayis b'msara b'chutz, or some kizayis, some small part of the meat outside of the Beis Hamikdash, o lechol kizayis me'or ha'aliyah b'chutz, or to eat the kizayis, so we'll say literally from the hide of the tail. What we're going to discuss is that the hide of the tail was very soft and could be eaten. We'll say in all of these cases, pasal ve'in balkares. We'll say in all of these cases the carbon is pasal, but there is no chiv kares. We'll say this is what we call the psul of chutz limkomo, offering a carbon or having the intention to do some part of the sacrificial order outside of the prescribed area. Chutz limkomo. If you have in mind to do some part of the carbonic process outside of its prescribed area, the halacha is that the carbon is pasal, but there is no chiyuv kares. On the other hand, lizrog damo lemachar, we'll say if a person has in mind to go ahead and sprinkle the blood tomorrow, mikzas damo lemachar, to go ahead and sprinkle some of the blood tomorrow, lahaktir emurav lemachar, to burn the limbs tomorrow, o mikzas emurav lemachar, or some of the limbs tomorrow, le'echal b'saro lemachar, to eat the meat tomorrow, o kizayis b'saro lemachar, or kizayis of the meat tomorrow, o le'echal kizayis me'or ha'alya lemachar, or to eat a kizayis of the hide of the tail tomorrow. Then I will say in all of these cases, this is called pigul. What's the definition of pigul? Pigul means chutz lizmano. If you have in mind to do some part of the sacrificial process outside of the prescribed time. So the first psul was chutz limkomo. I have in mind to do part of the carbon outside of the prescribed area. Pigul is I have in mind to go ahead and do some part of the carbonic process outside of the prescribed time. That's pigul v'chayavan aleh kares. Not only is the carbon pasal, but ultimately, again, the individual who does this is chayiv kares. Says the Gemara. So we're going to focus a little bit on the hide of the tail. Savruha, we understood this to mean or alya ke'alya dami. I will say that obviously the hide of the tail is like the tail itself. Top of chaf ches. Vaha chamachashev me'achilim mizbeach la'adam. But one second. I don't understand. The hide of the tail is normally offered up on the mizbeach, and yet you're telling me that if an individual eats it, again, if an individual eats it, or for that matter, I should say, he has in mind to go ahead and to eat it, either outside of the prescribed area or outside of the prescribed time, that invalidates the carbon. To which the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel Hamani, whose opinion does this reflect? Rabbi Eliezer he. We'll say this is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, who says, "The Amar mechashven me'achilas mizbeach la'achilas adam, or me'achilas adam la'achilas mizbeach." So Rabbi Eliezer says that ultimately, again, if you have whether something is consumed on the altar or by a person, an act of consumption with something that is consumed either on the mizbeach or by people, that is enough of an invalidating mindset. So we'll say, see, even for argument's sake, so according to Rabbi Eliezer, what this means is as follows. If I have in mind to eat some part of the carbon, which outside of the prescribed time, let's say, which is normal, and that part of the carbon is normally consumed on the mizbeach, not consumed by man, I can still go ahead and make that carbon pasal. Even though my machshava is for something that is normally consumed on the mizbeach, once something is consumed, be it by man or on the mizbeach, a wrong mindset has the ability to invalidate the carbon. This nan hashochet zevach lechol davar shein darko lechol. Also, listen to this. Person shechts a carbon, and he has in mind lechol davar shein darko lechol, to eat something that is not normally consumed, or lahakdir davar shein darko lahakdir, or to go ahead and offer something up that is not normally offered up. Kosher. Ultimately, again, the carbon is kosher. Now, when we say the carbon is kosher, it's because that mindset doesn't invalidate the carbon, since the mindset itself is flawed. That's not part of the carbonic process. On the other hand, Rabbi Eliezer Posel, Rabbi Eliezer says that ultimately, again, such a carbon will be possible. Because we'll say, remember again, Rabbi Eliezer's logic is as follows. As long as the carbonic item is being consumed by someone, whether that someone is me, the owner, the Kohen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Mizbeach, whatever it is, therefore, again, a wrongful mindset for consumption by that item will invalidate the carbon. So, b'maya kimta, Krebelaz. So, almost like b'maya kimta. So, how are you establishing the Mishnah? Krebelazar or Rabbi Eliezer? You are establishing it to reflect the view of Rabbi Eliezer. That's interesting because Ima Seifa, we'll say ultimately again, look at the end of that Mishnah, which I will say for us is in tomorrow's daf. Se'ema seifa, zehaklal, kolashochet v'hamekabel v'hamolich v'azorek lechol, davar shadarko lechol. Also, listen to this. Yet, what did the end of the Mishnah say? This is the general principle. Anyone who shechts or does kabbalah, molich, I will say, is holacha, taking the blood from where it was shechted to the mizbeach, or zorik is rika, the sprinkling of the blood, lechol, and a person goes ahead and lechol davar shadarko lechol, and I will say ultimately again, let's say in this case, I have in mind during one of the avodas, one of the primary blood avodas, shchita, kabbalah, holacha, zrika, and during one of those avodos, I have in mind to eat something either outside of the prescribed time or outside of the prescribed area, and I have kavanah to do this with something that is normally consumed, or lahaktir davar shedarko lahaktir, or to go ahead and offer something up on the mizbeach that's normally offered up on the mizbeach. I will say in that case, the carbon is possible. But what do you see from here? Davar shedarko le'echol in, she'in darko le'echol lo. We'll say, you see from here, from the end of the Mishnah, that what? That the only way to passel a carbon, I will say, is if you have in mind to eat a part of the carbon outside of the prescribed time or outside of the prescribed area. That's what? That is normally consumed. But if I have in mind to eat the part of a carbon, we'll say, let's say out of the prescribed time or out of the prescribed area, and that part of the carbon is not normally consumed by me, it's consumed in the Mizbeach, then the Mishnah seems to indicate that that does not make the carbon possible. So therefore, Seifa Rabbanon, Asam Rabbanon, we'll say this affects the view of the Rabbanon. If that's the case, Reisha Rabbi Eliezer is Seifa Rabbanon, are you going to tell me that the beginning of the Mishnah reflects the view of Rabbi Eliezer, and the last part of the Mishnah reflects the view of the Rabbanon? We'll say now, normally we like to have a Mishnah reflect one harmonious view throughout. Amar Le'in. He said yes, in fact, that is the case, that the Mishnah in fact reflects two different opinions. The first part of the Mishnah reflecting the view of Rabbi Eliezer, we'll say who holds that what? Who holds that halacha l'maisa, again, wrongful intent by a part of the carbonic process, as long as that carbon is consumed by someone, be it by me or be it by the Mizbeach, wrongful intent to consume that carbon, to consume that carbon outside of the prescribed time, outside of the prescribed area, will in fact invalidate the carbon. That's the Reisha. The Sefer reflects the view of the Rabbanan, to which the Gemara says, Rav Huna Amar. Rav Huna says a little bit differently. He says, or alya lav ka'al yudamir. So focusing back on the case of a person who decides to consume the hide of the tail. Remember again, the Mishnah's case was that I have in mind to go ahead and consume the hide of the tail outside, leaving aside pigol, chutz limkomo chutz libzmano, outside of the prescribed time, outside of the prescribed area. So the Mishnah taught me that if I have that mindset, ultimately what? The carbon is puzzle. We're just trying to figure that out because at the end of the day, the hide of the tail is not normally consumed. Normally, it's burned on the mizbeach. So how do we understand that mind? How do we understand that mindset invalidates the carbon? So approach number one, I will say, approach number one is Shmuel, who says that the Mishnah reflects the view of Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer holds that if you have an invalidating mindset by a part of the carbonic process, whether the carbon is consumed by man or the carbon is consumed by the mizbeach, that can invalidate the carbon. Rav Huna says differently. Rav Huna Amar, or al yalav ka al yadami. Rav Huna says no. In fact, the height of the tail doesn't have the status of the tail. The Gemara says, Amar Rava, my time is Rav Huna. What's Rav Huna's logic? He says, Chel bo ha'alya, v'lo or ha'alya. Because Rabbi say, ultimately, again, the pasuk says quite explicitly, that's what? The pasuk says quite explicitly, Chel bo ha'alya, that it is only the fat of the tail which is consumed, but not the height of the tail. Rav Chisda Amar, the olam or ha'alya ke'al yadami. Rav Chisda says no, it's not true. The hide of the tail has the status of the tail, meaning has the status of food, is consumed. The Gemara says, "V'hacham asking, and what's the case over here? Ba'alya shel gidi." We'll say the case over here is we're talking about the tail of the goat. If you look at Rashi, Rashi's v'hacham asking, Rashi is very cross in Tosos Tanina. V'hacham asking, masnisen dechashav le'achilas adam. Ba'alya shel gidi she'ina kreva. We'll say apparently the tail of a goat was not offered up as part of the carbonic process. Ultimately, again, which meant that it was consumed by the owners. That's the case of the Mishnah. So when the Mishnah says that if the owner has in mind to eat the hide of the tail, either outside of the prescribed time or outside of the prescribed area, that the carbon is possible, it's dafka talking about what? The tail of the goat. Ultimately, again, because that is not offered up on the Mizbeach. To which the Gemara says, Kulu ki Shmuel lo amri. So we'll say, remember the other opinions, the other individuals just quoted, don't hold like Shmuel. The Gemara says, Amri, Reish, Rabbi Lazar, Seif, Rabban lo mukmi, because they don't like the idea, ultimately, of having the Reish of the Mishnah like Rabbi Eliezer, and the Seif like the Rabbanon, Kiraf Huna lo amri. We'll say, ultimately, again, why don't they hold of Rav Huna? Because, again, Ar alya ke al yudami kamashmalu. Because they also subscribe to the idea that indeed the hide of the tail is like the tail itself. Rav Chisda, my time alo amri. Rav Chisda seems to have a pretty good approach in all of this. Ultimately, it's telling me that the Mishnah is talking about a case of where we're dealing with the tail of the goat, and the tail of the goat was not offered up on the Mizbeach. Rather, it was consumed by the owners, and as such, a machshava, a thought, to eat the tail outside of the prescribed area, prescribed time, makes sense that it invalidates the carbon. So, ma'kamash malan, or alya ka'al yadami. So we'll say, here's the problem. According to Rav Chisda, what are you going to tell me? What's the novelty in the ruling? Is the novelty in the ruling that the hide of the tail is like the tail itself? We already learned that. Tanina. We learned that. We'll say, where do we learn that? The elu sha'orosein kibisaran. We'll say, the following things, their hide is like their flesh. They will say, now, what does this refer to? If you look at Rashi, ve'elu sha'orosein kibisaran, Rashi says, letame tumas nevelos. Well, this is actually very interesting. The Mishnah goes through a list of hides that are treated like flesh, which means that just as the flesh could have tumas nevela, the tumah of a carcass, so too again these hides also get tumas nevela. They also could become tameh with tumas nevela. And what's in that list, Rabbi say? Or shetachas ha'alya, the hide underneath the tail. So we'll say, so already we learned this concept. In other words, if you tell me that the Mishnah is coming to teach me that or alya ke'alya, that the hide of the tail is like the tail, been there, done that, meaning we learned that already. We learned that. So like, what's the chiddush over here? To which the Gemara says, Rav Chisda itzderechs. So also, Rav Chisda nevertheless feels the need that the Mishnah needs to reiterate this concept. Why? Sagadait chamina, because I might have thought, hanimili le'inyan tumah derachach mitzdarif. I might have thought that I understand why the hide is considered like the flesh for tumah purposes. Why Rabbi was saying? Because ultimately, again, the hide is soft like the flesh. This is dafka by the hide is soft like the flesh, and that's why it's considered like meat for tumah purposes. However, aval hacha ema lemashcha legidula kiderech shamalachim ochlim v'lo avidi malachim de'achli hachi. When it comes to karbanos, so the pasuk that's used by karbanos is ultimately again I have given you the karbanos l'mashcha. Both say l'mashcha means like for an exalted experience. Therefore, again, the idea of karbanos is we consume karbanos like royalty. Royalty does not eat the hide of the tail, and therefore I would have thought that for carbonic purposes, the hide is not like the flesh of the tail. Therefore, again, the Gemara says, Kamash Malon, that is not the case. Therefore, according to Rav Chisda, the novelty of the Mishnah is that not only by Tumah do we go ahead and count the hide of the tail like the flesh of the tail itself, but rather, when it comes to Karbanos, we treat the hide of the tail as well, and therefore, if one has an erroneous mindset about the consumption of the hide of the tail during one of the 4 avodos, an erroneous mindset is being defined, an intention to eat the hide of the tail outside of the prescribed time, prescribed area, that will render the karban pasul. So listen to this. If a person shechts an ola, with the intention to go ahead and to offer up a kizayis from the hide that is underneath the tail, outside of the prescribed area, so the karban is pasul and there is no kares. Okay, we'll say it's chutz l'mkomo. Chutz lizmano, if he has in mind to go ahead and offer up a kizayis of the hide of the ola outside of the prescribed time, then what? Pigul, the karban becomes pigul. V'chayavin alav kares. And ultimately what? Ultimately, again, one is chayiv kares. Elazar ben Yehudi ish avilim omer mishum Rabbi Yaakov v'chein haya Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish kafar ikus omer mishum Rabbi Shimon. Supposed to say a lot of people are saying this, which is echad or beis haprasos behimadaka ve'echad. So they say as follows. Whether we're talking about again the hide, beis haprasos means over the hooves. Whether we're talking about, again, the hide over the hooves of a small animal, which apparently was soft hide, ve'echad ar harosh shel ha'egel harach, or for that matter, the flesh on top of the head of a young calf, ve'echad ar shetachas ha'alya, or the hide that is underneath the tail, ve'chol shamanu chachamim gabi tumah, ve'elu sha'oro sehen kibisaran. And any of the cases, for that matter, where the rabbis counted the hide like the flesh in the case of tumah, so there was talacha lahavi or shabeis haboshes. Then ultimately, you're say that refers ultimately again to the hide by the makom erva of a female animal. All of these cases, chutz limkomo pasal ve'in bo karis, chutz lizmano pigol v'chayaven alel karis. We'll say in all of these cases, and essentially we'll say what this second opinion is saying is the laws of hides as they are understood by Tumah apply the same way by Karbanos. In other words, sort of we'll say whatever is the type of hide, which ultimately again could contract Tumas Nevela, which means that the hide is just like the flesh, that same type of hide is considered to be meat for Karbanic purposes as well. And therefore, if you have in mind to eat a kizayis of the hide outside of the prescribed area, chutz limkomo, that'll render the karban pasul but not chayiv kares, or if you have in mind to go ahead and what? Eat it outside of the prescribed time, that'll make the karban pasul and you are chayiv kares because that's called pigul. So we'll say, what do you see from here? What's the kasha? So the Gemara says, remember, this whole brisa that we just quoted Rabosai is talking about an ola. This whole conversation is focused on an ola, which leads the Gemara to say, ola in aval zevach lo. We'll say what this sounds like over here, therefore, is that this issue only comes up by ola, but doesn't come up ultimately anywhere else. Aval zevach lo. Bishlam al Rav Huna. So we'll say this makes sense according to Rav Huna, who says Hanu diktani ola. So we'll say according to Rav Huna, this makes sense. Ultimately, again, that's why again the Brisa singles out ula. Elul Rav Chisda my area ditani ola listni zevach. But we'll say according to Rav Chisda, I don't understand. Rav Chisda is of the opinion who says that the case of the Mishnah, right, that this concept could apply to all karbanos. If that's the case, then why does the Mishnah, why does the Brisa Dafka say ola? Let it say zevach, right? The most say zevach is a more generic term for all karbanos. To which the Gemara says, Rav Chisda, ibais ema ba'al yishal gidi. So Rav Chisda will say it could be that's what we're talking about, as we said before, as to the hide of the tail of a goat, which is not offered up ultimately again on the Mizbeach at all. We'll say, if you take a look at the first wide line of Rashi, Rashi says over here, Rashi says, Ibai Sema, Hach Masnisin Nami Ba'al Yashel Gedi, Fine. So we said this before. The other possibility is Tani Zevach. The other possibility is according to Rav Chisda Inachinami changed the girsa of the brisa. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. Marhaba. Welcome back. So the other possibility is change the girsa ultimately to say Zevach. Good. So we'll say so bottom line we have this machlokes. Ultimately again we have this machlokes how to go ahead and understand the case of the aliyah, how to understand the case of the hide underneath the tail. And also at bottom line it appears to be either we're talking about the tail of the goat, which is never offered up on the mizbeach, or again Rabbi say it's reflective of these other opinions who hold or ha'aliyah ke'aliyah, that ultimately again the hide of the tail is the equivalent of the tail itself, treated like flesh, and therefore again a disqualifying thought about the hide of the aliyah is the same thing as having a disqualifying thought about some of the sacrificial meat, which in certain cases could render the carbon puzzle, and other cases again could wind up requiring, or could wind up generating an obligation of kares for the individual if there's an issue of pigul. Okay, says the Gemara, puzzle ve'in bo kares. So let's remember again. So in our Mishnah, we spoke about two different psulim, what we call chutz limkomo and chutz lizmano. Chutz limkomo means a person does one of the four blood avodos, right? Shchita, kabbalah, holacha, and zrika, with the intention of eating the carbon outside of the permitted area. If you do that, the carbon is pasul, but a person is not chayiv kares. Versus chutz lizmano, where a person goes ahead and does one of the avodos with the intention of consuming the carbon outside of the permitted time. So we'll say, so once you do that, that's called pigul. Pigul not only invalidates the carbon, but also generates an obligation for kares. Says the Gemara, from where do we know this from? Amar Shmuel Trei Kroi Ksivi. We'll say, so Shmuel says, in reality there are two psukim. We'll say, watch this, it's actually very interesting. Two psukim. Mahi. We'll say, what are the two psukim that we're referring to? Mahi. So Amar Rabba said as follows. Shlishi, so we'll say, the pasuk that the Gemara is referring to over here is as follows. This is the pasuk in Vayikra. Vim he'achol yi'achal b'bisar shlama bayom hashlishi. If you eat of the flesh of the carbon on the third day, lo yiratzeh hamakrivo so lo yichashev lo pigul yihya. So the Torah tells you that if I eat the carbon on the third day, it's not good. The carbon is pigul. The carbon is pigul, and the pasuk ends off by saying, "Va'nefesh ha'ocheles mimena avonotisa." And the nefesh, the person who eats from it, will have to bear his sin, which we understand to mean chares. So it says the Gemara, watch this. Amar Rabbi Shlishi, when the pasuk says shlishi, the third day, zehu chutz lizmano, we'll say that refers to the prohibition of eating a carbon outside of the prescribed time. That's shlishi. All right. Pigul, when the Torah says pigul, zehu chutz limkomo. We'll say that refers to the prohibition, or that refers to the issue of eating the carbon outside of the prescribed area. Now we'll question that. Why exactly that? We'll see why the Gemara is dashing that way. We'll say take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Pigul, it's 4 lines down in the wide lines of Rashi towards the end of the line. Pigul, tichsiv b'seifei dikra pigul yihya kra yiseruhu l'rabos chutz limkomo. See, we'll say that phrase at the end of pigul yihya. We'll say that is an extra phrase. That is an extra phrase. Because it's an extra phrase, ultimately, again, I don't need it to teach me chutz lizmano. Why? Because again, I already learned that from Bayom HaShlishi. So therefore, I use it to teach me chutz limkomo, outside of the prescribed area. So the Gemara goes weiter. Va'nefesh ha'ocheles mimeno. And what's when the pasuk says a person who eats from it? What do we learn from there? Echad velo shnayim. Did I say a person is only chayiv kares for one of these infractions, but not for both? In other words, I'm only chayiv kares for either chutz limkomo, chutz lizmano, but not for both. Zeu chutz lizmano ulemeute chutz limkomo, teaching me that I'm only chayiv kares for chutz lizmano, but not for chutz limkomo. I ve'ima va'nefesh ha'ocheles mimeno zeu chutz limkomo ulemeute chutz lizmano. How do you know that? Maybe, I will say, if we're excluding something, how do you know to exclude chutz lim komo from the chiv kares. Maybe chutz lim komo is chayiv kares. We'll say if I have in mind to eat the carbon outside of this prescribed area, that's what's chayiv kares. And what's excluded from kares? Chutz lizmano. To which the Gemara says, mistabra chutz lizmano adif. We'll say it would appear that chutz lizmano adif means better. We'll say, but better in this context means stricter. Why? The pasach pei. Because we'll say, remember again, that's the prohibition the Torah leads with. So b'pashtus we assume the Torah leads with the more severe of the two prohibitions. Chutz lizmano is the first one. That's shlishi, teaching me ultimately that is the one that is subject to kares. To which the Gemara says, adarabba. Chutz lim komo adif disamichle. We'll say I can make the opposite argument. Chutz lim komo should be stricter. Why? Samichle. Rabbi say samichle ultimately again because it is written. Rashi says the hai mimenu samuch lepigo yihya. So we'll say ultimately again that the prohibition of chutz lim komo we'll say is actually written closer to the punishment. So I might have thought that would be more severe. To which the Gemara says, Amar Abaye. Therefore Abaye says. Kias Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi Amarav Samich Aditani Tana. So we'll say take a look at Rashi, which is this Rashi says over here. No, I'm sorry, not yet. So the Gemara says Amar Abaye Elakias Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi Amarav Samich Aditani Tana. Kishu Omer Shlishi beParshas Kedoshim Tiyu. So supposed to listen to this. When the pasuk says Shlishi in Parshas Kedoshim, we'll say there's another pasuk. The pasuk that we just quoted before is the pasuk from Vayikra. There's another pasuk in Vayikra, later on in Vayikra, in Parshas Kedoshim, where the Torah says as follows: Vim he'acho ye'achel b'yom hashlishi, pigulhu lo yeratzeh. Torah seems to quote the same exact pasuk a second time. So the Gemara says, why do I need that? She'in tamud lomar. I don't need that pasuk at all. Shari kvar ne'emar vim he'acho ye'achel mibasar zevach hashlam yom hashlishi. We'll say I already had a pasuk in Parshas Sav. If I had a pasuk in Parshas Sav, why do I need the same pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim? We'll say Amud Beis, top of Amud Beis. Im eino inyan luchutz lizmano, tinehu inyan chutz lim komo. We'll say it's very simple. So if I don't need that pasuk of Pigul to teach me ultimately again about chutz lizmano, because I will say that, remember again, that I'm learning out from the pasuk in Parshas Sav, then ultimately again I can use the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim to teach me about what? To teach me about chutz lim komo. Ultimately again to go ahead and to teach me about offering up karbanos, or having in mind to offer up karbanos chutz lim komo. Umiyet rachmana gabe nosar. Now watch this. Now the pasuk goes out of its way to go ahead and make a miyut by nosar. Also remember again, nosar means leftover, anything left over after the prescribed time. Va'ochlav avono yisa. Also the pasuk says by nosar. Va'ochlav avono yisa. That ultimately again what? That those who eat nosar will have to bear their avera. Limeute chutz lim komo. Both said to tell you that what? That nosar gets kares, pigul gets kares, but chutz lim komo does not. Chutz lim komo, which Rabbi say, remember, it means the mindset to consume or do some part of the sacrificial service outside of the prescribed area. That will make the carbon puzzle, but does not generate a kares obligation. Why don't you say ultimately again when the pasuk says v'ochlav avono yisa? You both say that the person who eats it, right? The person who eats it outside, right? The person who eats it will be chayiv kares. Say that refers to chutz lim komo. Well, so maybe that should refer ultimately again to the case of a person who's eating outside of the prescribed area. Uleme ute, nosar me kares, and maybe to exclude nosar from kares, that nosar is not subject to kares. Mistabra nosar haved lo ukme bekares. Lemigmar avon lochos lizmano de damile bizav. Also, it appears clear that ultimately again nosar does have a chiyuv of kares, because we learn it out ultimately again from avon chutz from chutz lizmano de damile bizav. Rabbi say zov is an acronym for zman and bama. So the Rabbi say that ultimately again certain karbanos, or I should say certain sacrificial pieces, share certain common denominators. So Zman and Bama means that the karbanos, that both Nosar as well as Chutz Lizmano are a function of Zman. Something only becomes Nosar when Rabbi said, with the passage of time. Chutz Lizmano is the psul of having in mind the carbon outside of the prescribed time. And Bama, we'll say Bama means that they also both apply when Bamos are in effect. Remember again, Bama refers to a personal altar. So before the Beis Hamikdash was built, there was a license for personal altars. So as I said, the idea is that both Nosar as well as the prohibition of Chutz Limkomo both apply even when we are offering karbanos on Bamos. Adarabah, I can say just the opposite. Chutz Limkomo have lo bekares. I can say that Chutz Limkomo. I can make the argument that Chutz Limkomo should be subject to kares. Why? The migmar avon l'chutz lizmano didami le b'mikdash. Because we'll say ultimately again, I can learn it out from avon because it is comparable ultimately again in which way? Mikdash. We'll say what does mikdash mean? Mikdash refers to machshava, kitzas, dam, and shlishi. Which we'll say again, we're not going to get into all of the details over here, but these refers to the ways ultimately again in which these karbanos are similar. Ela Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Tani Zavdi Bar Levi, Asya Kodesh Kodesh. We make a Gzir Shavra, we'll say ultimately of what? Of Kodesh Kodesh. Rashi says over here, the Asya Kodesh Kodesh. Rashi says, the Haiva Ochlav Benosar Ksiv. So we'll say, listen to this. So Ksiv Hacha, Es Kodesh Hashem Chilel V'nichrisa. We'll say, it says over here that what? The pasuk is, V'ochlav Avono Yisa, Ki Es Kodesh Hashem Chilel, V'nichrisa Nefesh Ahi Me'ameha. Now, both say, so just so you understand the context, that pasuk is right after the Pigul pasuk, right? So pasuk, so this v'imhe'achol ye'achel b'yom hashlishi. If you eat it on the third day, Pigul hu, it will be Pigul. Lo yeiraseh, won't be accepted. Both say the pasuk that follows immediately after that is va'ochlav avono yisa ki es kodesh Hashem chilel v'nichrasa nefesh hahi me'ameha. So a pasuk that explicitly tells me about the chi of kares by Pigul. So on one hand it says, es kodesh Hashem chila v'nichrasa uksiv hasam, and on both sides it says over there by what? It says over there by nosar, v'sarafta es hanosar ba'esh. It says on both sides, you shall burn the nosar in the fire. Both sides, listen to this. So the pasuk says, v'im yivaser mibsar hamiluim u'min alechem ad haboker v'sarafta es hanosar ba'esh lo ye'achel Ki kodesh hu. Now, both say, watch this. Now, both say, so what the Gemara is picking up on over here is it says kodesh by nosar, and it says kodesh by pigul. What do we learn from here? Ma lahalon nosar, afkan nosar. Both say, just like over there earlier, was talking about nosar. So to over here, talking about nosar. Both say the prohibition of chutz lizmano pigul effectively is also like a type of nosar. Why? What's nosar? Nosar means leaving something over past the prescribed time. We'll say, what's pigul? What's pigul? Having in mind to eat it after the prescribed time. So there's an element of nosar by both of those things. Ma'ala halon nosar avkan nosar. U'mi'et rachmana gabi nosar va'ochlav avono yisa leme'ute chutz limkomo mikaris. So I will say to teach you, the only things that have an element of kares associated with it is what I will say. Those things that have a nosar common denominator. What is the nosar common denominator? So of course you have nosar itself, which means you actively leave over something past the prescribed time and then you eat it. That's called nosar zechi of kares. Or if you have a kavana for chutz lizmano, you have an active kavana to go ahead and what? To go ahead and leave something over from the carbon into the prohibited time, after the permitted time. That's also quote unquote a form of nosar, therefore subject to kares. So we'll say both nosar itself as well as a machshava for chutz lizmano will have a chi of kares, but chutz limkomo does not. Umay chazis dikra aricha b'chutz lizmano ushlishi the parashas kedoshim tiyu chutz limkomo. We'll say, so how do you know that the long pasuk that we quoted before is talking about chutz lizmano, and the shlishi pasuk in parashas kedoshim is talking about chutz limkomo? Epochano. I could just easily switch them around and assume they're referring to different things. Mistabra aricha b'chutz lizmano. We'll say it would appear clear that the longer pasuk quoted before is talking about the prohibition of chutz lizmano. Why? The gamar avon minosar didamile bizav. Because I will say we will learn out ultimately again chutz lizmano from avon exer shavav nosar, because there's a commonality between those two things in what sense? I will say zav, which is zman and bama. Both of them are elements of the passage of time, and both of them apply even if a carbon is being offered up on a bama. Adrabah, can say just the opposite. Aricha b'chutz limkomo. Also, I can say the longer pasuk is referring to the prohibition ultimately again of chutz limkomo. Ushlishi dikdoshim tiyu b'chutz lizmano. And I can say ultimately again that the shlishi pasuk of Parshas Kedoshim, which Rabbi says the Yobayom HaShlishi pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim, is referring ultimately again to chutz lizmano. Why? Mishum d'damilei. Ultimately again because they are comparable. To which the Gemara says, Samchei v'kamemaitle. So the Gemara says, but does that make sense? They're going to juxtapose them, and ultimately again go ahead and juxtapose them, and then exclude chutz lizmano from the prohibition of kares. Ela Amar, it doesn't make sense. Ela Amar Rava, Kulu mikra aricha asyan. Rather, Rava says, Rabbi say, all of this is learned out from the long pasuk we have in Vayikra. Dichsiv. Rabbi say the pasuk says, He'achol ye'achel. Rabbi say the pasuk says, He'achol ye'achel. If you will eat it, double lashon of achila. B'shtei achilos hakasav medaber. Plus, the Torah is talking about two different forms of consumption. Echad achilas adam, ve'echad achilas mizbeach mibasar zevach shlamav. Plus, say why im he'achol ye'achel? Torah is teaching me about two different acts of consumption. One is an act of consumption by man, and one is an act of consumption by the mizbeach. What's an act of consumption by by the mizbeach? Bless you. What that means ultimately is that it's consumed on the mizbeach. Mashlomim. Mifaglin mispaglin. We'll say just as ultimately again a carbon. We'll say mifaglin mispaglin means they can become pigul, married to mifaglin, and so mispaglin means the carbon itself can become pigul, and mifaglin means that intent during one of the avodos makes it pigul. So just like by karbonos avosai, mifaglin mispaglin. Ultimately, again, so you could go ahead and render it pigul by having an erroneous mindset during one of the blood avodos, and it itself becomes pigul. Af kol mifaglin mispaglin. So to Rabbi say again, in all of these cases, wrong intent during one of the avodos has the ability to go ahead and render it pigul, and the carbon itself has the ability to retain the status of being pigul. Shlishi. Zechutz lizmano lo yiratzeh. So the pasuk then says shlishi. Remember again when the pasuk says shlishi, what does that refer to? Zechutz lizmano. We'll say that refers to the prohibition of chutz lizmano, of ultimately having intention to consume the carbon outside of the prescribed time. Lo yiratzeh. Also when the pasuk says it shall not be accepted. Kartzos kosher kinartzos pasuk. We'll say this is very interesting. The same way that a kosher carbon is acceptable upon the mizbeach, so too again, so a puzzle carbon is unacceptable on the mizbeach. We'll say, what does that mean? Uma hartzas kasher ad shiakrivo kol matirov. We'll say, just like ultimately again, just like if you offer up a kasher carbon, you need all of the avodos to be kasher. Take a look at Rashi. It's 5 lines up from the bottom. Ma hartzas kasher lo korele hartzah ela bizrika shu sof arba avodos hamatiros. Af pigo enu kavua ad sheyizrak adam shu sof kol matiros. It's actually quite amazing. The Torah is linking the kasher carbon with the pasul carbon to tell you, just as a kasher carbon could only become kasher if all 4 of the blood avodos are done, shchita, kabbalah, holacha, and zrika, so too a carbon could only become pigul if what? If all of the avodos were done. If the avodos were not done, let's say again, he did shchita, kabbalah, holacha, and the blood spills on the way. But already during shchita, he had in mind that what? That he was going to eat this carbon outside of the prescribed time. The carbon does not become pigul. I should say he's not chayiv for pigul. Why? Because since again the avodos were not completed, in order for the carbon to become pigul, the blood avodos has to be completed. Which we'll say is an incredible chiddush if you think about it. In order for the carbon to become pigul, all of the avodos have to be done. So the Gemara says, "Umar tzas kasha achakriva kol matirav af hartzos psul apostle." The carbon can only become pigul. We'll say if what? If ultimately again all of the avodos were done. Hamakriv. Also when the pasuk says hamakriv, he who offers it. B'hakravahu nifsal ve'eno nifsal b'shlishi. We'll say, what does this mean? Look at Rashi. Makrava hu nifsal, hashta yolif psul de machshava kosu medaber, shemechashe b'shas hakrava lo ochlo b'shlishi, b'ino nifsal b'shlishi. In b'hakrava lo chishev al menaskein, v'achim ena b'shlishi, eina karba nifsal mafreir. This is very important. When does the crumb become pigul, Rabbi say? When does it become pigul? Only when you have active kavana during the actual hakrava. Only if you have kavana during the actual sacrificial process to consume this carbon on the third day or after its prescribed time, does it become pigul. Rabbi say, let's say a person ends up eating the carbon on the third day. So I could have said that what? I could have said that since I'm eating it on the third day, what does that show? That my intention the entire time was to eat it on the third day, and retroactively it shows that I had das for pigul during the shas hakrava. The Gemara says, no, that doesn't work. If you end up eating it on the third day, you've got problems also. That's called nosa, which has its own, basket of problems. But it's not pigul. Pigul is dafka ultimately when you have the wrong intent during the shas hakrava, during the time of the offering. But ultimately, again, but if you lacked the intent during the actual hakrava, even if you ended up eating it later on, it is not nosa. Oso bezevach hakosav medaber ve'ino medaber. We'll say one last drasha. The pasuk says oso. What does oso teach me? That I will say when you have one of these invalidating mindsets during the carbon, let's say a person has in mind to go ahead and eat the carbon on the third day. Oso, it is the carbon that is possible, but not the kohen that is possible. We'll say because I might have thought that's what. Maybe once the kohen has machshavas pigul, maybe what? Maybe he's disqualified from the avoda. Right? Maybe he can't do any of the other avodas, and that's it. To which the Gemara says, no, that's not the case. It is only the kohen. It is only the avoda which is disqualified, but the kohen is not. So we'll stop over. There's more drushes going on, but we'll stop over here. I'll share with you a short idea on the parasha. So we'll say this week we have the great sechos to read the parashos of Bahar and Bechul Kosai. And in Bechul Kosai, the Torah goes through the incredible list of brachas and klalos. Ultimately, again, beginning with in Bechul Kosai Telechu Mitzosai Tishmoru, the idea being that if I go ahead and I listen to the brachos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the Torah outlines the incredible rewards. And then the Torah goes through the dramatic section of the Tochacha, that if a person goes ahead and doesn't listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so unfortunately all of the different klalos, all the different curses that devolve upon the individual. So interestingly enough, when the pasuk says, Im bichu gosai tilechu, if you follow in my ways, so Rashi says, what does it mean to follow in my ways? She tihiyu amelim batorah, that you should toil in Torah. So then when the Torah says, this is in Perek Chavav, pasuk Yudalil, in the midst of Parashas Bechul Kosai, the pasuk says, "Ve'im lo sishmu'uli, ve'lo sa'ases kol hamitzvot sa'ila." Chavav Yudal 26:14. And if you don't listen to me and you don't perform my mitzvos, so Rashi says, what does it mean if you don't listen to me and don't perform my mitzvos? Rashi says, "Lihios amelim batorah." So if you don't toil the Torah, so essentially it's two sides of the same coin. Im bichu kosai telechu, if you follow in the ways of my Torah, that refers to amelus, the toiling in Torah, whatever that means. And im lo sishmuli, if you don't listen to me, so Rashi says, you're not amel batorah, you don't toil in Torah. So there's a beautiful vart by the Kotzker. It's a very sharp vart. The Kotzker in general was very sharp. I'm going to blunt it a little bit. Hope the Kotzker will forgive me. Right? So listen to this. So the Gemara Maseches Bracha says as follows. The Gemara says, Im roa adam shi yisurin ba'in alav yifashesh v'masav. If a person sees that he's suffering, that there's difficulties devolving upon him, he should introspect. Pish pish v'lo matzah. So if he introspected, but he didn't find anything wrong, right? I did a cheshbon nefesh, I'm good. I didn't find that I'm doing anything wrong. Then yitle bebitul Torah. Then a person should assume that what? That the suffering is coming upon him because of bittul Torah. He negated Torah study, right? He negated, or he wasted his time when he should have been learning. He wasted his time. So the Kotzker says, I don't understand. The Gemara says, "Hare pish pish v'lo matzah, mashma afchet shel bittul Torah lo matzah, vehechiyit le bittul Torah." So the Kotzker says the Gemara doesn't make sense. The Gemara says, if I'm suffering, there's difficulty happening, challenges. So what should I do? I should introspect. The Gemara says, if I introspected and found nothing, Baruch Hashem, I didn't find any Aveirus, so if that's the case, then what? If that's the case, then what? Then I should assume that my suffering is a result of Bittul Torah, that I negated study of Torah. Says the Katzker, I don't understand. If I introspected and I found nothing wrong, that means I didn't what? I didn't waste time either. In other words, Bittul Torah is also an Aveira. So the Katzker says the Gemara is inherently contradictory. You tell me to introspect and to look what I'm doing wrong. I introspected. I didn't find, Baruch Hashem, that I'm doing anything wrong. So the Gemara says, oh, you should assume that you were Mevatel Torah. But no, Bittul Torah is on my checklist. And I went through the checklist and I didn't find Bittul Torah either. So what are you telling me now? I didn't find anything wrong, therefore it must be Bittul Torah. So this is what the Katzker says. Get ready for this. So the Gemara says, Ela yitle beBittul Torah. Es hadavar hazeh. Says the Katzker, if you read the Gemara a little bit differently. The Gemara says, yitle beBittul Torah doesn't mean that Lemaisa, the reason for my suffering is Bittul Torah. Rather, what the Gemara means as follows. The reason I didn't find anything to fix in myself is because of Bittul Torah. The Katzker says as follows. He says, Shalomata shum siba v'gorem li'isura. The Katzker says, how could it be that a person introspects and doesn't find something to fix? How could it be that a person looks inward and they say, all good here, right? Everything is in perfect working order, just fine. How could it be that a person introspects and they find nothing to fix? Yitle beBittul Torah. A person who finds nothing to fix within themselves, that's because of Bittul Torah. That's because a person like that is not learning. A person like that is not growing. A person like that is not on a forward-moving spiritual trajectory. If I look inside and I say to myself, everything is in tip-top shape, then again, yitle beBittul Torah. Such a person like that, unfortunately, is not steeped in a model of growth. And when you're not steeped in a model of growth, Rabbosai, that is called Bittul Torah. Mashalolama Torah mesame es einav. If I'm not steeped in Torah, if I'm not in a trajectory of growth, Rabbosai, then what does that do? That blinds my eyes. Shelo yire ba'atzmo kol pigam. A person who is unable to see any type of deficiency. Or in other words, I will say, what is the Katzker? First of all, it's an incredible interpretation of the Gemara. Imroa adam she'yisurin bo'in alavi fashe shemasav. If there are challenges in my life, I have to introspect. Figure out where am I deficient. If I look inside and I can't find the deficiency, says the Katzker, oy vavoy. We'll say, you know what's worse in life than... See, we often think that the worst thing is when I find deficiencies. There's one thing worse than finding deficiencies inside myself, which is what? Not finding anything. Because I will say, if I don't find anything to fix, let's be honest, it's not because there's nothing to fix. It's because I'm blind to my own shortcomings. When does a person become blind to their own shortcomings, Rabbi Osai? Yitle beBittul Torah. When Bittul Torah doesn't just mean a person is not learning. Bittul Torah doesn't just mean that you're speaking during your chavrusa. Bittul Torah doesn't just mean that you're zoning out and not paying attention. Bittul Torah means I'm not steeped in a trajectory of growth. I'm not steeped in a lifestyle where the goal is every day more. That's Bittul Torah. And when a person lives a life of Bittul Torah, then they can't see what needs to be fixed. And I will say this gives us an incredible. Katzker is teaching us an incredible lesson. What I will say is, there's always something to fix within ourselves. There is always something to improve. There is always something to do better. There is always an area of growth. And if chas v'shalom, again, I wake up one day and I introspect and I say to myself, all is good, then unfortunately what that means is I'm not steeped in a lifestyle of growth. He or she who is steeped in a lifestyle of Torah. And I will say, when we speak about Torah, Torah doesn't just mean sitting in front of an open sefer. We know that. Torah means, yes, learning. Torah means tzedakah. Torah means being a bal chesed. All the different things that are the tenets of Torah. When a person is steeped in Torah, then they look inside themselves every single day and they find that which is deficient. Not in an effort to beat myself up, not in an effort to tell myself how terrible I am, chas v'shalom, but an effort to recognize, where could I grow? What do I need to do? A person who is living a life of Torah always comes to one basic conclusion. There's more I have to do. There's more I have to grow. There's more I have to fix. But I say we should be Zochem Yirtzeh Hashem to find ourselves steeped in lives of Torah. Not just learning of Torah, but living of Torah. And the greatest manifestation of living a life of Torah Bosai is not how many blot Gemara you learn, but it's a recognition that every single day I have to grow, every single day I have to move, every single day I have to fix within myself that which is deficient.